Cubivore, Survival of the Fittest, the GameCube game originally developed for the N64 and eventually released on the GameCube after a tumultuous development cycle in 2002, finds itself in an odd time period. Released the same year as Super Mario Sunshine, the worst Mario game, and GTA Vice City, there will never be a time that this game will find itself in our top games list, but I enjoy it. The cubed art style and Pikmin music don't do much for me, and the story can best be described as a vehicle to move the player forward. The bare-bones Evo-style evolution systems can be engaging on some artificial level, but I really find Cubivore to be representative of a game that could be. I'd like to take some time to talk about why it's not. Before I praise anything about Cubivore, one problem flicks the back of my ear. The insistence upon tutorializing every aspect of the game is a mistake. A tremendous mistake that irks me even now as I write this script. Every hop you take, every blade of grass you come upon, every single aspect of gameplay will be introduced to you in a horrific amount of detail. Even when you eventually evolve past the first stage, you'll be stopped at least every hour to have words spat in your screen while you sit there, controller in your hand, character frozen, eyes glazed over hoping they'll be the last one you see. But it won't. It'll never be. I'm not complaining about tutorials. I find them extremely useful for people who don't understand the mechanics of whatever game they might be playing, but when you risk the attention of the player by being overly verbose with walls of text covering the screen while stopping the player in their tracks to explain why some grass of a different color is able to be eaten, you shouldn't be surprised when your game does poorly, and its only hope for revival lies at the bottom of a pit next to shovelware trash that even Nintendo doesn't care to acknowledge. It doesn't help that there are numerous examples of text scrawling at the bottom of my screen, while I blissfully ignore it in lieu of a shiny object at the other end of the map, able to move my character freely around without having to be stopped. I don't need a masterpiece of a tutorial. I don't even need a good one. Doom already perfected diegetic tutorialization 9 years before this game was released. You can't get better than that. I don't expect it. Go play Doom again. It's pretty great. All I want is the ability to play the game unmolested by the player character's need to talk to me. Shut up. Stop talking. Your words mean nothing to me. But why do I like the game so much, even after all of that? Combat, baby! Combat is something I love interacting with as deeply as possible. Except fighting games. I only play Tekken 6 specifically. Most combat in games never really reaches its full potential. Whether it's due to other systems affecting it, or the game designers not realizing possibilities they've granted to themselves. The only time a Yakuza game's combat is engaging in any substantial sense is in Zero, and a few missions in all the others. The Insomniac Spider-Man games are miserable in the same sense, and other ways. Cubivore finds itself in a very similar situation, with very little to offer in terms of engaging battles, with the exception of 3 levels. I'm going to tell you about one. The sky's gray, the air moist. Grizzly moves on to the next battlefield, Ultimarsh, where his next enemy, the District Attorney Beast, strides around with pride. His 2 lackeys, both Grey Dons, never leave his side as he patrols his territory. Finding yourself in the middle of a bowl, you have one goal in mind: eat. So I do. This is probably either my second or third favorite combat arena in Cubivore due to the interactions between the player and the animal population that's able to be observed. The local fauna sees no issue with one another. Most low-limbed creatures are passive if you find yourself near them, or even if they do attack, is equivalent to a toddler attacking anything other than a toddler. I'd beat the diapers off a toddler. They'd be helpless. Any number, any time. But I wouldn't, because if I take any time dealing with them, the district attorney would pop his head around the corner and bully me into submission. I'm getting ahead of myself though. The combat in Cubivore is simple enough. Lock onto an enemy with L, during which your avatar will take the time to back up to cause more damage. You can interrupt at any time by lunging forward with A, and you can always block with B, or get out of the way of any incoming attacks. This is where the fun in Ultimarsh really comes in. My first interaction with the fight was to attack the DA as soon as the level started, and I was able to feel what I can only assume the developers wanted me to feel as a one-limbed creature, powerless, overwhelmed by a pack of wild dogs on any side. I'd only have the option to run away. The attacks were unrelenting, and even as I got away, their patrol continued repetitively. Encountering them without a minimap would give the illusion of a hunt. With a map on, I would feel nothing but stress as I continually found myself facing a mob of not only my enemies, but thought to be passive toddlers. Maybe there is a number I could lose to. This is the core gameplay of Cubivore that draws me back. Not the half-baked RPG elements or the incessant tutorials, but the moment-to-moment animalistic fear the game instills. The fear of an attack coming from any side at any time. One that takes a modicum of ingenuity we all possess, but rarely use. Because we never have a chance to feel that fear. To actually feel that fear. The combat and environmental systems in Cubivore give you a sliver of that by not giving you the tools to be overpowered when you encounter a situation for the first time. You get to feel like a rabid rodent, scurrying around the map, looking for a piece of edible grass just so you don't die, and you'll never be allowed to be a part of the pack. Instead, when you do come back, you'll be a roaring lion. Cubivore is a failure. It had a lukewarm reception at launch, and every day that passes, another game pushes it lower down the list. But I like Cubivore. Someone should remake it.